Welcome back to Blazers Uprise's Top 100 Players series for the 2022-2023 NBA season. This is a reminder to subscribe to NBA Uprise, where we'll be doing NBA content during the course of the season, link in the description box below. With that being said, let's jump into it. Jusuf Nurkic is an interesting player. Last season, in 28 minutes per game, he averaged 15 points, 11 rebounds, and almost 3 assists per game. One thing to note, he had his best year of his career finishing the ball, and that was without his main table setter in Damian Lillard for a part of that, and earlier in the season, Damian Lillard was also hurt. His three-point shot, he's been shooting more of them, but it still wasn't there yet. He shot 27% behind the arc last year. And defensively, he's lost a little bit of a step, but he's still a solid positional defender and a well-rounded big. And he's still putting up numbers, still rebounding the ball extremely well, averaged over a steal per game last year, and honestly I feel like he's become a little bit underrated at this point. Wendell Carter got traded from Chicago to Orlando in the Nikola Vucevic trade in 2021, and then last season he had a career year for the Orlando Magic. Averaging 30 minutes a game, he averaged 15 points, 10.5 boards, and almost 3 assists, shooting 52% from the field and 33% from 3. At only 23 years of age, there could still be some improvement for Wendell Carter Jr., who will now get to play next to first overall pick Paolo Banchero there in Orlando. As some other young players on that team improve, I think the additional help will help make Wendell Carter Jr. even better. He's not a guy that's going to take over a game offensively, but he can do some things off the dribble, has some touch inside the arc, and can occasionally step out and hit the three-point ball. He seems like the type of guy who will be better playing next to better players, and I expect some additional improvement this year from him. Defensively, he's a solid positional defender. He's not going to make many plays. He averaged less than a steal and a block per game last year, but he's certainly serviceable on that end of the court. It'll be interesting to see who Orlando starts between Wendell Carter Jr. and Mo Bamba there at the center position, since Banchero has the 4 spot locked up. I fully expect it to be Wendell Carter Jr., and I think he will be a top 100 player next year. Marcus Smart was a big reason in the Boston Celtics reaching the NBA Finals last season, and in the process, he won Defensive Player of the Year. In 32 minutes a game, he averaged 12 points, 6 assists, as well as 4 rebounds, and was the main facilitator in the playoffs for the Boston Celtics. Smart played better on the offensive end during the postseason, averaging about 16 points per game for the playoffs, but his ranking on this list comes with what he can do on the defensive end, where he is one of the best defensive players in the league. Standing at only 6'3", he's extremely strong and can guard players that are bigger than him. He's a competitor on that end and sets the tone defensively for the Celtics. While his offense can be a mixed bag, he is one of the best defensive players in the entire league. Miles Turner is a 3-and-D shot-blocking center that is still playing for the Indiana Pacers after years of trade rumors. There's still a chance he gets traded in the next year, and whatever team he ends up with would love to have a 26-year-old center that can block shots and shoot the 3-ball. For his career, Turner is a 35% three-point shooter. He shot below that number the last 3 years, and he averaged a whopping 2.8 blocks per game in only 29 minutes last season. That to go along with 13 points, a below-average rebounding number of only 7 rebounds per game. For a center, that's not great, and he basically just provides value as a three-point shooter, somebody who can finish inside the arc, shot 66% from 2, and as a shot blocker. He does tend to play soft at times, and he is prone to chasing blocks, which gets him out of position when he shouldn't be, but a rim protector who can space the floor is a very valuable asset, as it makes fitting lineups together that much easier. You can fit forwards next to him that can't really shoot, and he's a major pick and pop threat playing off of guards in the pick and roll. After 3 years in Indiana, Malcolm Brogdon got traded to the Boston Celtics this past offseason, where he is looked at as the main addition to try and get the Celtics over the top and win a championship. Last season for the Pacers, Brogdon averaged 19 points per game, 6 assists and 5 rebounds on 45% from the field and 31% from 3. Brogdon is a career 38% three-point shooter, and I expect that three-point efficiency to return where he has less offensive responsibility and can play off guys like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart. Defensively, Brogdon was better a few years ago when he played for the Milwaukee Bucks. It'll be interesting to see if a reduced offensive role gives him more energy on that end, but regardless, Boston needed another facilitator, and Brogdon fits in really well as that. You can play him next to Marcus Smart, he's 6'5", and I expect him to be that third scorer that the Celtics needed in the finals last season and to fit in seamlessly in Boston. Speaking of Boston, Robert Williams broke out last season, especially in the playoffs. He became a full-time starter for the Celtics, and while his numbers aren't impressive, in 30 minutes a game he averaged 10 points, about 10 rebounds, and 2 assists. Defensively, he was one of the best defensive players in the league, averaging 2.2 blocks. He's extremely mobile and can switch on to guards and contain pick and rolls, and then he's a major factor as a rim protector. Teams love having both of those traits in a big man, especially a young, cheap one like Robert Williams. Next season marks the first year of a 4-year contract where Williams is making about $12 million a year, which now is looking like a bargain. In the playoffs last season, Williams was arguably the best defensive player in the league, and in the finals, he blocked 17 shots in only 6 games. That's about 3 blocks per game. He's efficient around the rim, saw a career high in free throw percentage last year at 72%, and he's also underrated as a passer and is able to make plays in that regard. He doesn't turn over the ball much either. Robert Williams III is very underrated. Jeremy Grant got traded to the Portland Trail Blazers this past summer after about a year of rumors that Portland was interested in him. Grant played 2 seasons in Detroit where he turned himself into a near star level scorer after being a role player in Oklahoma City and Denver. He was about a 12 to 14 point per game scorer in his previous 2 stops, shooting 48 to 50% from the field and 39% from 3. However, in Detroit, where he saw a far higher usage rate, he averaged 22 points per game 2 seasons ago and then 19 points per game this past season, only 43% from the field and about 35% from 3. Now he goes to Portland where he'll be more of a role player, but I also think he will have more offensive responsibility than he had in Oklahoma City and Denver, and defensively he will be the type of team defender that the Blazers need. On the ball he has some defensive question marks, but he's a guy that can shoot both off the dribble and off the catch, and he can attack the rim, and defensively he's definitely not a negative, and it'll be interesting to see what he does in Portland. D'Angelo Russell was a big part in the Minnesota Timberwolves making the playoffs last season, as he averaged 18 points per game and 7 assists in 32 minutes per contest. His efficiency wasn't great, he only shot 41% from the field and 34% from 3, but he also had some notable improvement defensively and had a high impact as a playmaker and would get hot at times as a scorer and was able to take over some games. In the playoffs, however, Russell really struggled, averaged only 12 points per game on 33% from the field and 39% from 3. Had Russell played up to his own standard, the Minnesota Timberwolves had a chance to win that first round series. This feels like a make or break year for D'Angelo Russell in Minnesota. They brought in Rudy Gobert and expectations are higher than at any point since they had Kevin Garnett. If Russell struggles this season, I could see a trade deadline trade. There was already some trade rumors of him this past offseason, but he's still a great facilitatory piece to have next to Karl Anthony Towns and a lob target like Rudy Gobert. Some slight improvement in efficiency could see Russell being around a 20 point per game scorer again with 7 assists as well as improved defense, and at that point he would probably belong higher on this list. Draymond Green is one of the most well-known players on this list, and he's still doing Draymond Green things at 32 years of age. Last season, he averaged about 7 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists per game, shooting 52% from the field and 30% from 3. His three-point shooting has been 30% or lower in the past 6 seasons, and he's definitely not the scoring threat that he was during the Warriors' first championship year where he averaged 14 points per game, but he's still one of the best passing forwards in the league and one of the best defensive players in the league as well, and he's the perfect role player to have next to a Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, and Andrew Wiggins there in Golden State. And without him being able to give guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown fits in the NBA Finals, the Warriors probably don't win the championship last season. DeAndre Ayton got paid this past summer. After being a key part of Kevin Durant to Phoenix rumors, the Indiana Pacers signed DeAndre Ayton to a 4-year max contract offer sheet, which the Suns matched in minutes. Last season, he averaged 17 points per game, 10 rebounds, and about 30 minutes per game. His block numbers saw a decrease, averaged less than a block per game. And while he is a good rim protector, he is not elite in that regard. He's also not a guy who's going to step out and shoot it. What DeAndre Ayton is a really good pick and roll big man and lob target who thrives playing next to Chris Paul and Devin Booker. He's also very solid when switched out onto the perimeter and onto guards, which is something that is very useful to have in a center, especially in the playoffs. While Ayton hasn't developed into the big man people envisioned when he was drafted with the first overall pick back in 2018, he's still a good starter on a team that won the most games in the league last season. Sure, almost all of his buckets are assisted, and Chris Paul helps make him look maybe a little bit better than he actually is, but he's still one of the better starting centers in the league. Peace out. Go Blazers.